Welcome back to The Innovative Teacher. In our last episode, we looked at how to set up an esports program at your school, how to plan thoughtfully, structure sessions, select equipment, and engage parents and leadership. Today we're taking the next step, how to ensure that your program isn't just running but thriving. We're talking about assessment, reflection, and program growth, how to observe learning, reflect on your teaching, gather evidence, provide feedback, and grow your program sustainably over time. Let's start with assessment. This is often where teachers feel uncertain, especially in esports. It's tempting to look at game scores or who wins and assume that's learning, but in educational esports, the score rarely matters. What matters is the skills, behaviors, and reflection students demonstrate while they play. Think about it. When students are working together under pressure in a match, what do you actually see? You see communication in action. You see leadership emerging. You see problem-solving and strategic thinking. You see emotional regulation, the ability to respond calmly after a loss or support a teammate in a tense moment. These are the moments where real learning happens. And your role as a teacher is to notice them, document them, and use them to guide future sessions. One simple approach is to create an observation log. You don't need anything fancy, just a way to note what students are demonstrating in each session. For example, you might track when students give or receive helpful feedback, when someone steps into a leadership role, or how the team collaborates on strategy. Over time, you'll start seeing patterns. Some students might always communicate clearly but struggle with patience. Others might be brilliant strategists but shy away from taking a leadership role. Observation helps you identify these nuances and respond proactively. And that brings us to reflection. Not just for students but for you as the facilitator. Reflection is where your teaching grows. After each session, take a moment to ask yourself, what worked well? What behaviors did I notice? Were all students engaged and included? Were the well-being routines followed? Did any patterns emerge that I should address next time? Reflection is how you turn what you observe into actionable improvements. It's not about perfection. It's about continuous learning for both your students and yourself. Now, when it comes to gathering evidence of learning, many teachers think that evidence must be written assignments or tests. But in esports, much of the learning is visible, spoken, or collaborative. Your logs, notes, and session observations are evidence. A student who helps a teammate recover after a mistake demonstrates problem-solving and empathy. A student who calmly adjusts strategy after a loss demonstrates resilience and communication skills. This is the type of evidence you can share with leadership or parents to show the educational value of your program. Feedback is another essential piece. And here's a mindset shift. Feedback is two-way. Students learn when you guide them, and you grow when you reflect on what works and what doesn't. Immediate prompts during a session can reinforce positive behaviors. End-of-session reflections help students process what they did and what they could do differently next time. And regular check-ins with leadership or co-facilitators allow you to refine your program structure. Feedback isn't about criticism, it's about adjustment, improvement, and growth. Once you've established observation, reflection, and feedback, you can begin thinking about program growth. A strong esports program doesn't stay static. It evolves just like any other part of the curriculum. This could mean introducing advanced sessions for experienced students, linking gameplay to other curriculum areas, or expanding into tournaments or community connections. You might train additional staff to co-facilitate, ensuring that knowledge and practice are shared. You might adjust scheduling, try new games that align with learning goals, or rotate student leadership roles. Growth happens intentionally, and it happens when you use the evidence you've gathered to guide decisions. Let's pause for a moment and reflect on what this means for student learning. A growing program doesn't just offer more gameplay, it offers more opportunities for skill development, leadership, collaboration, and reflection. Students see progress in themselves and in their peers. They learn that improvement comes from deliberate practice, reflection, and teamwork, not just winning or losing. And as a teacher, you see tangible evidence of your impact, because you've set up systems to notice, measure, and respond to learning. Of course, challenges will arise. Participation might dip after the initial excitement. Some students may feel excluded, or some behaviors may reappear. The key is to use the structures you've built: observation, reflection, and feedback. Introduce mini projects, rotate roles, or create new challenges to keep engagement high. Connect the program to curriculum outcomes, well-being initiatives, and even cross-school partnerships. These strategies reinforce learning while maintaining momentum. And remember, thriving esports programs don't require you to be a top-level gamer. They require you to be a thoughtful teacher, observing behaviors, guiding reflection, documenting evidence, and iterating the program. That's what builds sustainable success. Your teaching skill, your ability to notice and respond, and your commitment to continuous improvement are far more important than your personal gameplay ability. So as you prepare for your next session, think about these questions. What patterns am I seeing in student learning? How can I tweak my facilitation to support those who need guidance? How will I record evidence today that informs tomorrow's session? And how will I use reflection and feedback to expand the program responsibly and effectively? Each of these steps strengthens not only the student's experience but the program itself. If you understand that assessment in esports is about behaviors, reflection, and skills rather than game performance, that observing students is essential, that reflection guides your teaching decisions, that feedback strengthens learning and program growth, and that iterative adjustments ensure sustainability, then you're ready to take your program to the next level. Before we close, let's take a moment to talk about something many esports programs eventually encounter: interschool competitions and online events. These can be exciting opportunities for students, giving them a chance to test skills, work in teams under pressure, and experience a wider learning community beyond your classroom. But like any high-energy, competitive environment, they need careful preparation and guidance. First, think about why you're participating. Competitions should align with your learning goals, not just provide entertainment. Ask yourself, what skills do we want students to practice here? Are we focusing on teamwork, communication, strategic thinking, or emotional regulation? Keep those objectives front and center when preparing students, scheduling sessions, and choosing the right events. Next, there's the practical side. Online competitions often involve multiple schools, public servers, and real-time communication. That means there are extra layers of responsibility. Students need to understand digital citizenship more than ever. They should know how to communicate respectfully with peers they haven't met in person, how to handle conflicts or provocations calmly, and how to follow any competition rules or codes of conduct. Your role as the teacher is to scaffold that learning, provide examples, run practice sessions, and model appropriate behavior, so these situations become learning opportunities rather than risks. Then there's the logistics of participation. Make sure your students are prepared technically: stable connections, tested hardware, and clear instructions for the competition platform. Scheduling matters too. Ensure competitions don't conflict with well-being, academic priorities, or existing program routines. And remember, winning isn't the goal. Use every competition as a chance to reinforce reflection, strategic thinking, and emotional regulation. Encourage students to debrief afterward. What worked well? What could we adjust for next time? How did we communicate under pressure? Those discussions are where the real learning happens. Finally, think about inclusion and equity. Not every student will have the same skill level, experience, or confidence. Rotate roles to give everyone a chance to contribute meaningfully, and support quieter or less experienced students in ways that build competence and confidence. Interschool and online competitions are not just about showcasing talent. They're about cultivating growth, resilience, and collaboration across diverse teams. When navigated thoughtfully, competitions become one of the most powerful extensions of your program. They demonstrate the real-world relevance of the skills you've been developing in the classroom, while giving students a tangible sense of accomplishment and purpose. And because these experiences are structured, intentional, and reflective, they reinforce the very habits and behaviors that make esports educational, not just entertaining. And now, as we bring this series to a close, I want you to take a moment and think about the journey you've been on. Over the last several episodes, we've moved from understanding what educational esports really is, to connecting it to curriculum, to structuring lessons, managing classrooms, launching programs, and finally observing, reflecting, and growing your practice. That's a lot of ground, and if it feels like a lot, that's because it is. But here's the good news. You don't need to do all of it at once. Esports, like any innovative teaching practice, is built incrementally. Step by step, session by session, observation by observation, reflection by reflection, you layer skills, habits, and confidence. One of the most important lessons I hope you take from this series is that esports is a mirror of effective teaching practice. The same principles that make a classroom thrive, clarity, structure, engagement, reflection, well-being, are the principles that make an esports program succeed. The tools may look different. A controller instead of a textbook, a virtual arena instead of a lab, but the pedagogy is the same. You're guiding learners, noticing patterns, giving feedback, and creating environments where curiosity, collaboration, and growth are possible. It's also worth reflecting on the mindset you've cultivated through this series. You've been encouraged to see learning in action, not just outcomes, to value observation over assumption, to plan deliberately, manage intentionally, and reflect thoughtfully. These are transferable skills. They don't just apply to esports. They apply to any innovative teaching environment you choose to explore. The series has been as much about developing your teacher lens as it has been about the games themselves. And thinking long-term, consider the culture you're building. A successful esports program is more than a schedule, a set of games, or even a collection of lesson plans. It's a community. A culture of respect, teamwork, curiosity, and personal growth. Every expectation you set, every role rotation, every reflection routine contributes to that culture. Over time, students begin to internalize these habits, carrying them beyond the esports session into other areas of school life, and even beyond school. You're shaping not only digital citizens and problem solvers, but resilient, reflective learners. There's also the element of sustainability. An esports program isn't a one-off project. It's a living, evolving initiative. You've learned how to document evidence, gather feedback, and iterate. That process is what allows programs to scale, to survive changes in staffing or technology, and to continue serving students effectively. Think of it as building a framework that can expand, adapt, and last for years. The knowledge, routines, and mindset you've developed here give you the foundation to do exactly that. Finally, I want to leave you with a perspective on impact. Esports in education isn't just about skills like communication, leadership, or strategy. It's about creating experiences where students feel seen, challenged, supported, and capable. It's about designing opportunities for meaningful collaboration, problem-solving, and reflection. Every session, every observation, every adjustment you make contributes to that impact. And over time, you'll start to see the ripple effects, not just in gameplay performance but in student confidence, engagement, and their capacity to work with others in complex, dynamic environments. So as you step away from this series, I want you to carry two big ideas with you. First, your teaching skills are the heart of this program. You do not need to be a gamer. You need to be intentional, reflective, and observant. Second, esports is a vehicle, a platform for learning that, when used with structure, clarity, and care, can transform engagement into meaningful growth. That's the power you now hold as an innovative teacher. Take your time. Move at the pace that works for you. Test routines, observe students, reflect on what works, and iterate. And know that you're not just teaching a program, you're creating a culture, building skills, and preparing students for challenges both inside and outside of school. That's the lasting impact of what you've learned. Thank you for joining me through this entire journey. I hope you feel prepared, inspired, and confident to not just run esports sessions, but to make them transformative, intentional learning experiences. Keep observing, keep reflecting, keep facilitating thoughtfully, and above all, keep thinking like an innovative teacher. This concludes the series. And remember, the games are the platform, but your teaching is what truly changes lives. Thanks for listening.